So for this video, I wanted to talk about the document I created, having to do with the harassment I had to deal with for a year, having to do with BlunZ's server. It will sum things up using evidences of the pictures and links within it, while showing what BlunZ said in his video made no sense, as well as towards Twitter posted evidences he had as well. It is still advised that after you look at this, that you look at the document. 2 other YouTubers did this very well without utilizing what I had, showing that BlunZ was basically debunking himself. But I felt that it should be shown what I was being put through for a year, all of this, while comparing the evidences that I have against what BlunZ has in order to properly show what happened. The things you will see will not be things you've seen in either of these 2 videos. Before I begin, I want to say that the reason why the document I made looks that big is not only due to the amount of pictures in there, but because I had to deal with this for a whole year. But it never started out that way. The reason why I had gathered evidence over time was because if I hadn't, I would have been in trouble a lot sooner. So if I ignored my pursuers, or if I had no proof on me and they are spreading false things about me, then people will start getting the wrong idea. So really I've been defending myself the whole time. So let's start with the first thing BlunZ said before posting his video. He says that he feels he should address an issue about an insane person harassing him along with his friends by spreading misconstrued information for a year. This all sounds very familiar, doesn't it? He goes on to say that drama is the one thing he avoids within his own Twitter circle, threatening to force his hand despite going on to do what he wanted to do anyways. He was never forced to do this, he just did it just to do it. But the fact of the matter is, he was doing this before he even set out to create this tweet, and you will see as such soon. 2 other people underneath his post had this to say before he posted his video. Considering that BlunZ is using what I've been saying that has been happening to me for himself, these 2 are basically admitting that what had happened to me is beyond just drama and that I had the right to come out with whatever had been troubling me for the longest time. So here, he says that what is about to be seen is a waste of time and that it's long past its expiration date, and I agree, but for a different reason. You see, the reason why he never said anything about this for so long was because he was busy just having a blast with his Discord, throwing all kinds of nonsense out there about me and letting them all do whatever. I had messaged him a year ago, but he did not respond on purpose for 2 months. He most likely saw the tweet of my twit longer and saw an opportunity to act on this to continue doing what he's doing. Understand that it's not like anyone really saw what I had to say anyways. I don't have much of anything in comparison to the following he has. As such, I don't have a voice, but his voice will be way louder in comparison. So whatever I didn't affect him, and I wasn't at all a threat to him. Z was not throwing fuel on the fire, but rather was a part of what kept the fire burning. I don't have direct proof of me DMing him, however, I can show proof through his mutual Spadesender. The reason why I messaged Ender was because I thought he'd be able to help me out, and I thought I was alright in his point of view. Now Ender under Z's post says this, and yet this isn't exactly what happened. Also notice the evidence he posted saying that I DM''D and waited 2 months. Despite people on the post lacking common sense, he isn't showing the entire thing. Granted, I don't got much of the DM neither, but I can show something he never showed. Which was his response after the shot he showed that seems to be the beginning of the conversation. I don't know when in the conversation he mentioned about relaying the messaging despite knowing that he said that. But my issue was mainly with what he said that Z mentioned to him. He said he has no control over that. I end up telling him that he wasn't making any sense. It's his server. So of course he should be able to manage it. Z has moderators that could just do most of the work for him, but those moderators were in on this too, as you will soon see. Despite him saying that he didn't want to get tangled up in this, he still ended up helping me. I did not pester him to the point of him making this decision. Not only that, but he's on Z's post providing his claim as proof that BlunZ is correct based on his video. Eventually I was given evidence from someone that Z was just propagating false info this entire time and ignoring what his server was doing on purpose, saying that I deserved to be bullied. Which had also confirmed other shots I had as well. After showing them to Ender and being skeptical about him, I was blocked. Now I messaged Z about all of this already a year ago before messaging Ender, and I was ignored. I tagged him to where it was happening as well, but was still ignored as he shows what he was tagged into and laughs at it. Directly before I messaged Z, I was raided by his Discord members on Twitter and they were questioning themselves if I noticed who they were. Of course I did, because they do the same things over and over as no one else cares enough to act this way. My IRL picture was thrown around in there and put into Discord bot commands as they slander my identity after digging up a bunch of stuff about me out of context and having their way with it. They dug deep to do all that just because of my interest in a character named Satyr from Granblue and that they were trying to push how I'm homophobic and admit to said slander. This led me to messaging Fatal about it in an attempt to get him to stop. But despite whatever he was shown, he still decided to say this. In messaging him, he asked what I meant after I said I was being harassed by his server, and then I showed him what happened. He was at one point typing for a period of time and then stopped for some reason. Moving onwards to the next thing BlunZ has to say, he goes in to say that I am Rex. Rex was an old name I had before changing it because there was no reason to use it anymore when Pyra and Mithra got in Smash. But it was also the only name Z and his members knew me by. Whenever people from his server or those affiliated through the rumors they spread or through being friends outside the server name drop the name or harass me in regards to Satyr and male genitals, they'd be outed right then. And right after that he googled the definition of a satyr to say it's based off some Greek god described as a man and zoomed in on it. This isn't true because Greek mythology and Roman mythology is not the mythology of Granblue fantasy. It also has its own mythology dubbed the creation myth. To be specific, the Satyr of Granblue is not the Satyr of Greek or Roman myth. With that said, Satyr can indeed have references in her design to the race of Satyr, so if she was to be based off anything, it would be the Satyrus from Roman myth. What's more is that Z purposely ignored the definition of Roman Satyr within that same definition he is showing and ignored the female Satyr definition below it all on the same page. So what he is trying to frame to make seem to be true is BS. From here Z goes on to say that Satyr is apparently implied or hinted to have a male genital in the game despite being female and says he doesn't care for this fact. Now the red flag here is that he called it a fact and then put female in quotations like she isn't one despite not caring, but let me just get this out of the way. Satyr is a character in GBF that people got the wrong idea about due to lines in the event she was first shown in. People, like those who were harassing me, keep associating the lines with sexual biology. In other words, male genitals, and more specifically a futa, transgender, or a man. But really none of these is true, and the line is just saying that Satyr is a character that was created to be a woman from nothing, and that she along with her race are in essence, just cores. This isn't to be confused with the line that comes afterwards, as this was supposed mean she had a kind of power as a primal beast. But with that said, people were being rather disgusting about this overall. Considering the dumb association that was pushed to make it look like this line has with male genitals from some in the community turned controversial and caused arguments because it didn't make sense. People also tried to joke about it too, which came off as annoying because it was usually done under the context of it being a thing or to mess with others. People were confused before, but because of that, it made even more people confused or more likely to agree cause of an echo chamber. But sadly, anyone who questions this at times is never really told the truth or is told something they heard which was thought to be the truth. Which would then keep the controversy going. As people were pushing their agenda about it also. But if these were true, then her gender out of the three ones in the game would be under other instead of female. Moving forward, Z says that upon this knowledge, he assumed that Satyr having male genitals started off as a joke in the server and yeah, so did I. However, what he is saying here isn't the whole truth. Because he actually saw arguments happening about it and I was being reeled into them. He said this in response to the argument. This isn't all that happens though. During my time there, I was called a bunch of stuff like feudal over and how there's one in the server each time I'm seen. If I ever disagreed with Satyr being a futa, I'd be called retarded and a bunch of other stuff. These things are deleted in his server. It didn't feel good being in there. A person named Toxel could vouch for that. He is another person who claimed I sent him a huge essay of text, but I'm pretty sure that's BS because he was way chatty before with me, but later down the line, he just started to become a mute. Toxel even admits that his server is toxic and full well knew what was going on in the server. I leave BlunZ's server on May 2nd. This being after I joined in a bit on a joke about some Satyr futa joke, and then a guy named Havisiox says that he can't believe they're appealing to the futa audience. To which I correct him and say, it's just a joke. Then boom, another argument happens. I was just so tired of not being able to speak about Satyr in the general sense without people pushing their fetish as canon. Some time later during the same day, I posted a meme illustrating my experience with bringing up Satyr. Then I see some random person calling out my Discord name, being RexForceMesh. This person was named Marahai, and along with other people, were witch hunting me, lying about me, in order to show that I am homophobic by digging into personal posts I created involving my past when I was feeling down about some things in order to disrupt my post. The fact that all of this happened out of nowhere had me really upset, and it was used against me to make me look worse. Even when I tried to show evidence and explain myself, I wasn't listened to. He confirms that he knows people were spreading Discord logs about me, and later on confirms that it was from BlunZ's server. People of course also noticed the craziness that I had to deal with on the post. But afterwards, the post was first locked then deleted later on. What Marahai showed was just a part of the evidence that things were just being spread about me that I had zero idea about. And of course, the harassment continued from there. Even to other subreddits. This eventually forces me to just close my account and create a new one, and when this happened, it was thrown in his Discord. But due to my interest in Satyr, they kept finding me, and I was even dealing with this during Discord. Continuing on to the next part of what Z is saying, he says I convinced myself that Satyr, a woman, didn't have male genitals. How do I convince myself that Satyr, who is a woman, didn't have male genitals? How is that possible when women generally aren't even born with that in the first place? I don't even have to think. How do you convince yourself of this? I wonder if whenever Z sees a woman, he thinks of male genitals. At any rate, this is clearly untrue, and it's amazing how no one called it out, but that just goes to show the level of bias being displayed towards him. He then shows afterwards that I created a 40-minute video because I convinced myself that Satyr didn't have male genitals. It's pretty obvious that he not only didn't watch the video, but he ignored the description in his face. He also ignores the comment saying it had nothing to do with that, along with other comments just commenting normally towards the lore video. It's pretty asinine that he thought I convinced myself a woman doesn't have male genitals and that I was so convinced I made a video on it. That makes absolutely no sense. People keep associating the lines with sexual biology as a canon thing, but it isn't. Considering that people are doing this, when you put 2 and 2 together, with people thinking that, and me making a lore video about Satyr, and it involves that line in the event, you get people who just can't let it go. The lines Nezha was saying wasn't just talking about Satyr, but all primals, and it's an important thing to their lore. But since there are people who keep saying that it's just male genitals, or a swap up on gender, if you don't think the same way they do, you're the bad guy, or it gets cancelled out, and you're called a hate crime you've never committed. To continue, BlunZ says that I said some questionably homophobic things in his server. The fact that he has to say questionably just shows that he's just taking shots in the dark, and what's worse here is that he has no proof. I never once said anything like that in his server. He is just ignorant and stupid. He says I deleted the homophobic things in his logs. Now this here shows that he knows exactly what I'm named on Discord as you're watching this video, because he actually went looking for shots of me saying these things in his Discord. Furthermore, people of his Discord went after me many times, so despite my name being changed, he should easily know who I am also regardless, as his Discord is always throwing down stuff about me in there. He also says I think before even saying his claim as well, meaning he just doesn't know if it really happened. If it really happened, I would have been kicked according to his rules. I don't know why he is saying this without any evidence. Like I mentioned before, people from his Discord started attacking me on Twitter. They spammed me with stuff about Satyr being a futa and yaoi, as well as editing what I looked like onto some futa art of Satyr. These dudes are crazy, and they think they're funny for doing it and thinking they're doing it for some deranged greater good thing, cause apparently I'm homophobic for thinking Satyr isn't a futa. However, there are multiple people have seen Rex's behavior firsthand. Oh, you mean your own server? The stuff people spread from your server to the outside of it? The things people saw within it and did the same thing? The very things you had to dig up my history to slander me with unprovoked? Rex leaves the server after being called a homophobe. How does anyone believe this video, and how does it have so much likes? It's the Twitter number, right? The clout? He showed no evidence and even zoomed in on himself not showing evidence. Also again, I left on May 2nd and went on to make a Reddit post about my experience bringing up this character. Because talking about her just stopped being fun. A person says that all I talked about was Satyr, not the game. But that isn't really true, and secondly Satyr is a part of the game, so technically I was talking about the game. And here we go again, him saying I'm protesting about Satyr having a male genital, because apparently according to him, that's what my video is about when it's not. He lists examples of places where this never really happened at also.
Before I continue any further, there is something important you must know, and that is how they act in a passive-aggressive manner in order to instigate. At first it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with it, at least from another's point of view, but if I were to add this shot, it gives context to what the guy is trying to reference and do to me.
In the Gaijin server, I never even had a video on the character at that time. No one really bugged me about Satyr over there, but the issue I had over there had more to do with elitism. I was a newish player in that server. As for Dragalia Lost, one day I came by feeling down and mentioned what I was going through as people sympathize. 2 months later, I mentioned that it's still happening, and as I was explaining why I was being harassed by people of Z's server, I showed my video because it played a part in it. Which is why I posted my video there. 2 months later, someone named Sendai later on went to send a follow request thinking I didn't know him, so that way he can get more ammo on me. I decline it and next thing I knew, I was raided by like 12 of you. One of you, by the name of Sky, even got yourself banned after throwing out a gay slur after trying to talk about Satyr and male genitals. Ironic. I can't retrieve the message because the person was banned and the admin wouldn't let me see it because I'm not allowed to. There are witnesses that saw this happen though. Sendai also again tries to pretend to be another random person in order to slander the situation. But the person was catching on to what he was doing and how he was pushing his fetish. The comments are deleted, but I got the shots before that happened. For the GBVS server, I was already dealing with someone from Z's server there beforehand. But there was someone I used to be alright with named Roddy, and he thought my video was fantastic as I was chatting with him in the DMs about it. But eventually right after that, I ended up talking to him about what happened to me. He then went into Z's server to see things for himself and saw it instantly and mentions how toxic it is in there. After that he says that he'd help out whenever I may have been in trouble. So like about half a month later, in the GBVS server, I saw someone by the name of Cougar throwing down a copypasta about me. I was upset at this because I didn't need anyone else throwing falsehoods about me any more than it has already been done. But I understood that he was innocent after being convinced as such. He tells me this came from the Granblue International Discord. A Discord I left due to a dispute I had with the server affiliates. Cougar talks to me more about the copypasta and shows me someone posting it thinking I may know him. So I'm thinking that the copypasta was made as a way to throw me off in order to use other people who have no idea what they are posting about to post this about me to rile me up. After he shows me that, I continue explaining about that copypasta as he thought it wasn't much of anything. Eventually I end up showing him my video, but this is because he claimed he recognized my video about Satyr. Cougar had the wrong idea about her too, but came to understand upon me explaining to him. After that though, 010 comes along and tells everyone not to engage with me. I get mad at him doing this and tell him to go elsewhere. He starts slugging a bunch of accusations at me that were clearly false. I mention that he's either a part of a group of people stalking me or someone just appealing to rumors about me. And this is when Roddy says that I'm coming into a new server and that I'm starting it again and that I need to let it go. I didn't start anything in that situation though, as 010 was the one going berserk simply by seeing me and starting to shout out accusations about me and telling others to disengage from me like I'm someone crazy. Roddy completely ignores this. Cougar also mentions that he doesn't blame me for getting upset at what he did and he already apologized for it. After 010 is just ranting about my supposed infamous exploits, a moderator arrives. But the moderator is targeting me instead of 010. 010 is still going and saying that he's sick of the conversation he created, and the mod is still targeting me saying that if I continue the conversation, I'll be muted. So in the literal sense I move on from the Discord because no one is using their heads at all. I continue to chat with Cougar in the DM afterwards. I tried to speak to Roddy, but he blocked, and it's rather ironic for him to say that he has no patience when we spoke to one another for like 2 hours and he watched a 40-minute video. Followed by him saying that I'm not being bullied when he saw the evidence in his face twice. Now what happened in the Granblue International Discord is very simple. I went into the lore of the channel and started a conversation about primals while showing my video, which is on primals plus Satyr, and showing the references and such made on her, and clearing things up about primals and how they're just cores, which is something that went over people's heads. People tried to start trouble and tried to derail on purpose and steer the conversation that I'm trying to have towards genitalia when clearly that isn't relevant. Afterwards me and 3 other people discuss my video in primals and then we finished talking about Satyr and went into Zoe. Then soon after, someone comes in and starts bugging me about Satyr's genitalia, who I assume to be some server affiliate because I've dealt with a lot of them already and they always do this. More come in after him. The moderators start messing with me as well alongside them and then tried to say that I'm not the authority of what is canon or not as a means to say I'm wrong and this is not up for discussion. Which is pretty stupid to say because what I have is showing things said straight from the game. I then see the person named commented instigating me by throwing out a clown emoji as a means of mocking me and calling me stupid and then tried to make it look like I'm just pointing fingers by saying, oh no, it's them along with the mods doing the same thing. All the while I'm telling the mod that he doesn't care for his rules, so he mutes me in the server for a day. I go to the same mod that muted me and I see him say that I am DMing. I just stop and leave the server. Some time much later, someone tries to say that I got kicked under unanimous decision by the moderators, but in reality, I just left after being muted for a day. If you wish to see everything that happened in full context in these servers, just look into these files and download them. They're HTML files, so they'll open on any browser you're currently using. It's Discord logs. With the next thing Z mentions, nobody cared or liked Rex, so my posts was deleted a lot and ignored. So firstly and again, this is him and his server's fault. People are getting information from there about what I'm supposedly am like. Resulting in witch hunting, and with this video he made which people gassed up as something exposing me, more of it happened and resulted in banning me from 2 servers. What's more is that there are people afraid to defend me because they don't want to be targeted. Secondly, on the very post he's showing, there's this guy he's scrolling past that was defending me. He noticed that everyone on the post was acting completely irrational for no reason. If these people weren't there, I'm pretty sure people would be on there having a normal discussion. But according to the moderators, it got removed by an auto mod, but they didn't mind me even speaking about my video in the first place. So I used the deleted post as a chance to start anew, but they just kept following me, doing the same old thing. Recently, I had just found out that an auto mod is something that acts when requirements are fulfilled, and in the case of reporting, they remove posts after a set amount of reports. This image shows that the ones who came after me on the posts I made were abusing the report function. So like I said before, these people here are only people who are affiliated with Z's server. The things they do match everything that server is doing. Someone said they were spreading stuff about me, and I am basically just getting witch hunted. They say they don't care, but would continue to come after me each time I recreate the post after its deletion. It really doesn't make any sense why people who clearly don't care are getting this defensive over it and are preventing any conversation about the lore of the character and primals to take place. Strangely enough, the moderators after like the 6th repost of the post told me after I contacted them that they do something about the people messing with me. But they cannot do anything about those who are just simply disagreeing with me. Anyone could easily see though, no disagreement or agreement is happening and that they're all just out to disrupt and derail. I mention in my document that these moderators are actually really bad. Because they were just letting all of this happen to me while I couldn't even get to have the discussion I wanted with other people about my video. Despite the frequency in which this happens, they viewed my issue as minor. According to other people on the subreddit, it's like they don't even exist in general. So it's like anyone can do whatever they want in the negative sense. I had to go through similar things in regards to harassment after this point in time, and when I did, someone finally came out and said that they noticed what was happening to me. While Equinine A person who literally just told me to get help for no reason, in the face of an argument with a guy who was trying to lie, saying that I got kicked out of Discords when I just left them and trying to make me out to be crazy. So this person named Darius who stuck up for me was getting upvoted, meaning that there were other people who noticed this was happening frequently also and noticed from my history and such. Furthermore, people create content clearing up misconceptions and making lower videos all the time. What I made gets belittled and slandered for talking about genitals when it isn't, and it being 40 minutes, and yet look at these guys. My video length doesn't mean anything, and there's nothing wrong with me making a lower video on the character and race. That's all this is, and what I'm trying to share with other people. That's all the line means too. Their race and what they are as cores, how they live their lives, and how they are treated. There's a person that used to post on the subreddit about mythological references to primals. Their content is well received. But this person doesn't get attacked from out of nowhere constantly all the time and reports spammed on site. The next part of the video after this shows Z showing nothing again. There is nothing homophobic in this picture, and what's worse is that this person also had no proof of that and was lying on purpose. I was on my other account trying to spread my video around to people who might have had the wrong idea about Satyr and primals as a means to help them understand and give them something good to watch. I was also doing this because at this point in time I was chazzed everywhere and messed with by people who were just clinging to rumors spread by Z's server. I was trying not to let these things bother me as I was doing my own thing. While one appreciated what I showed to them, there was a person named Kubisham who I thought was thinking this whole thing people were pushing about Satyr was weird. So I tried to show this person my video. The person goes okay, and then the next second, the person tries to quote retweet me and try to make fun of me for what I made. Unfortunately, this person was one of those loony individuals who were all over this feud thing when it came to those lines in the event. After enduring more of this person's nonsense, this person started acting pretty disgusting, telling me about how they did this. To which I tell this person that I hope they catch AIDS. After reporting this Kubisham got banned for a bit but came back. A friend of this person named Kita Kun stuck up for Kubisham who was also present at the time and trying to say that I did things on Reddit that I never did. Which brings us to what Z was trying to show in his video. Z deliberately ignores what was said underneath it, which has me saying he has no evidence and that he was lying. Which resulted in me being blocked afterwards. A person around that time that was with them said a homophobic slur similar to what happened in the Dragalium anchored. He deleted his post and he changed his name afterwards. Now Z mentions about me not changing. This is in reference to the tweet he made on his private account, quote retweeting the joke I made under someone's post with Mario holding the pride flag towards someone's post. But as usual, context matters. Z says that what I did there is homophobic, but there is obviously something wrong with that claim. For starters, Dunban is a fictional character. Secondly, the person I'm speaking to doesn't seem at all serious to me, but it was also a joke, as well as the one commenting underneath me. So all I did was try to play along. Lastly, I say above the meme that I wouldn't do that. The meme symbolizes me, not anyone else, showing that it would be gay for me to do that in my own opinion, and that there's are better compliments for me to use. With that said, people joke around about this kind of thing pretty often. So it's also pretty strange for someone who blew up over memes to quote retweet what I said, mention he was upset with me about that, and then lectures about his adventures in the locker room followed by him playing football. I don't care, and none of this has to do with the hatred for a group of people, someone who isn't straight, and other people that like to comment on Just a Robot's video of this issue also agrees that it doesn't look homophobic as well and that it's just a joke. I have just one question though. What the hell does this have to do with harassment towards Z, let alone Satyr? Z really just comes off as those generic virtue signalers or people calling out homophobia or transphobia at the drop of a hat. Up next in Z's video is how I made some posts under social media posts. Now this puts what was said towards Z at the very beginning of my video here into perspective. To add onto this though, he has a high following and I don't. So I am basically a mute compared to whatever he could say. They will see what he says, and a lot of people, compared to me, who will see almost nothing if I say something. In search of some kind of help, I decided to do what I did. But I know that one of BlunZ's followers may have found this, and he decided to act upon it. He was never harassed, and he's doing this for kicks. Right after this point, he tries to tell me to DM him. Which is strange, because not only does he try to continue what he started in making me look worse, but instead of just coming to me to DM me, he creates a video to smear me then say it. My DMs had always been open as they are open by default on Discord, and as for Twitter it was open there as well. But I am not saying this as a kind of reassurance, I'm saying this because he never went to me at all and had ignored me when I went to DM him a year ago. Then there's a Discord post about me asking Sheep to ask the devs about what I wanted to ask. But since Z is such a dickhead, all he could think of is that I am asking confirmation about Satyr's male genitals, when this is not at all what had happened. What I wanted to ask Sheep to tell the devs was if the line had to do with primal cores. I asked this full well knowing it was the truth anyways, because people have been acting rather ridiculous about this and associating the lines with sexual biology. Something a lot of people didn't like. I also did this because Z's members and affiliates kept getting in my way whenever I wanted to share my video to other people. Beforehand, I spoke to a friend of mine who got me in the server in the first place. I was feeling very nervous of even asking my question in the first place because Z and his dumb server members keeps on taking my actions out of context and using it against me or misconstruing the whole story about me. I already knew he was going to say some nonsense about that situation. Because this is what they do. Because they can't get the whole lines equals sexual biology out of their heads, and I would assume the same is for Sheep. Because I felt like he took what I said the wrong way and also mentioned that the lines were vague when it isn't if you just read the lore of the game. So, when I first entered Sheep's server, a few days later from that day, I tried to warn Sheep and another mod there that something like this was going to happen. That BlunZ affiliate or member will take what I said out of context. But he wouldn't hear me out. After I got into it with Commented who was in the server, I spoke to the mod and showed what I was warning him about, but then he says he couldn't find anything wrong with what I showed him. He tells me, though, that if there's any issues, I could go to him about it. That remark clearly didn't age well, as I was kicked behind my back. I never noticed I was gone, but I was given screenshots of what was being said. Sheep tried to say I was pestering him, but it's not as though he was really hearing me out. I was kicked because of some idiot posting Z's video and speaking to Sheep or a mod about it, and they didn't speak to me at all. I tried to get people to speak to him and show him that he's making a mistake. Didn't work. After I was kicked, I tried to get into contact with him again, but I was blocked. He'd rather listen to random information instead of comparing the two things and listening to the one at the heart of the issue. There was a conversation before Sheep responded, having to do with another dude getting the wrong idea about what I wanted. But when we conversed, he understood that he had the wrong idea and he deleted his comments, just as I did after him. That's exactly why Z clipped this part off. He only wants to smear. I was told that being vague towards Sheep wouldn't get him to cooperate, but then it looked like he was starting to be vague towards me. In conclusion, BlunZ is smoking that pack, and his server and affiliates, which specifically means people outside of Z's server that are friends with them, and those that falling for their rumors and spreading it around along with them, are trash for what they were doing to me for the past year. All I wanted was to clear things up for people and show others references people wouldn't have known about looking at the character, because people were clearly confused, wanted to know more, and people were spreading information about the character and primals like they knew what they was talking about. It was not because I was bothered that Satyr could be a futa or whatever sexual BS. I deserved none of what had happened to me, and the reason why I'm still talking about this is obviously because the stuff Z said about me isn't true, and the rumors that they spread it even harder. When you look at the definition harass, who do you think actually experienced this when you compared what Z had on video versus what I have? If they hadn't been spreading nonsense about me and hunting me down with other people, I'd be just fine. I don't need the same people telling me that they don't care about something while trying to ruin what I made for the community and for myself ever so constantly. If you don't care, then you can simply just not respond unless you have something of actual substance to say. People can tell me as an excuse that this is how the internet works, but how I'm acting now is also how the internet works. People can tell me as an excuse that this is how the internet works, but how I'm acting now is also how the internet works. Every action has a reaction, even if you deny this. Simply denying this statement is a reaction to my action. Choosing to ignore it is a reaction to my action. A choice is an action. There are those who say, no one cares about this Satyr thing, no one's talking about it, and I've often been saying that people don't like this kind of thing, so allow me to show you that I'm not all talk. The things you will see are people who push their sexual agenda through Satyr, those who have no idea what's being conveyed while feeding other people faulty information, and those annoying others with their jokes. The only connection someone even unironically made was male genitalia. That's how hard stuck people's minds in this community is when it comes to this. I'm going to now end this off by saying that I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm not gonna let people who choose to smoke grass instead of touching it stop me. But even though I say this, it doesn't mean that people won't try to stop me and mess with me anyways. That's the main issue here. Things should have never went this far or even started in the first place. Everything BlunZ said was both irrelevant and put out of context on purpose to slander. If you see anyone who pushes people around, the same as what was done to me, speak up for once. You may just make a difference. Thanks for watching.